What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, this morning we're seeing a bit of red in the market, as to be expected. Now, we did talk about this just in yesterday's video. We said that we were starting to see some overextensions in the market, but realistically we needed to see a pullback, a reestablishment of support on many of our shorter time frames, which I think would allow us to see some eventual growth back extremely to the upside if that support is established. Now, I am under the belief that support will be established, and with that will come a fantastic buying opportunity for just about all of our major cryptos in general. And so in today's video, I want to show you guys how we're going to identify that buying opportunity, take advantage of it, and exactly when I think it's going to happen. So do stay tuned and of course listen out throughout the whole video. So of course, as we did see this whole thing play out, let's go ahead and make me smaller. There we go. As we did go ahead and see this whole thing play out, we have now seen, of course, that we did set a wick high back above our previous macro high. Now, this is the first major sign that we are in some type of bullish reversal, or at least some type of midterm uptrend, okay, in which we might come all the way back up and at least dead cat bounce before seeing an eventual drop to the downside. So I am now under the belief that growth is more likely than not at this point. I said that if we got rejected down here, or even if we got rejected at that level, I was under the belief that we would not be looking for, some type of growth until we cleared it, but we did see the move above it just for a short period of time, which was enough for me to say, okay, it is becoming much more likely. Not guaranteed, but much more likely. Now at this point, of course, we can start to see that we are seeing a bit of rejection now, right? We're not seeing that daily close above this previous level. We did see a rejection at that same rejective high. And so what it says is that this is going to be another level where we are going to have to rally the bulls to get back above. As we had been down in this downtrend, we were struggling to clear this trend line, but the bulls finally came into full force and saw that big shoot to the upside. The only thing about that is, though, as we did see this breakout, many of our indicators did start to flash overextension signs, which we covered just in yesterday's video. You look at the 4-hour charts, you could see that we were seeing some bearish divergence here, right? We can see here that this momentum was dying off. We hit this overbought territory up here, but anywhere above 70 on the RSI is generally considered overbought. And what we can see happen from that point is that as we did start to inch near and near to these new highs, we set a high and a higher high. We started to set lower highs, which was a sign that the bulls were becoming exhausted, and what that likely does mean is that we will see a reset on these indicators, which does look like us seeing the price pulling back to possibly the $41,000 to $40,000 area. Even if we do look on the hourly RSI for example as well, you can see here that on the hourlies, although we were setting some pretty solid higher highs here, we were setting some pretty obvious lower highs, which is just another sign that the bulls were losing their momentum. Zooming back out to the daily charts, one thing we can see on the Bollinger Bands is that we were seeing a bit of overextension as well, which looked like us working our way right into the top side of our Bollinger Band envelope. Now, do be aware, whenever we see these Bollinger Bands getting put in, what it means is that we're going to take a moving average and we're going to do 2 standard deviations to the top and 2 standard deviations to the bottom. Now, the price of a crypto can only maintain 2 standard deviations to the top or to the bottom for a very limited amount of time before eventually resorting back within that Bollinger Band envelope. And so what that means is that the moment we started to get extended here, I told you guys here and over on my Twitter that I was going to be expecting some type of pullback pretty soon. Let's see if I can go back here and find it. Let's go ahead, scroll down. And I said here just 21 hours ago, though everything is looking absolutely incredibly bullish right now, do understand that at any given point we can see the retest of our more macro levels, especially on Bitcoin. Don't get caught in the mindset that things will only explode from here, because growth is a process. And once we started to see these overextensions, that's exactly why I started to feel as if we might see that pull back to some of these more macro levels relatively soon. And it does seem as if it is possible that that's what we're seeing now. So now that we kind of understand why we are seeing a bit of a stop and a bit of a rejection at this point, let's talk about what it looks like, how low can it go, and why this is totally okay as long as we maintain above our minimum support level. So best case scenario right now, in my opinion, is that we see the price start to roll back towards this $41,000 area. Now, there's a couple reasons why I want to see this happen. Firstly, I want to see this happen because I want to make sure that this move we're seeing right here is going to be supported by support. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes we see these breakouts, and when we see these breakouts, we clear some very key levels of resistance, right? We clear this, the structural high. We'll clear that 20-day simple moving average. We'll clear the trend line, and we'll see all of these beautiful things happen. But as we start to resort back, we can't find support anywhere, and that fake out leads to a lot more bearish sentiment in the market if we do start to lose some of these lower levels again. So I want to see that these macro levels will hold if we do see a pullback. Now, in the event in which we do see that pullback, it is extremely likely that most of our indicators, especially our RSI on the 4-hour and on the hour, will reset almost near completely back to those quote-unquote oversold territories by the time we do hit this $41,000 area. Now, of course, it will be essential that our short-term indicators are capable of seeing those resets in order for us to continue back to the top side, because of obviously they are relatively out of room here, right? I mean, we're not really seeing that they have too much room back to the upside if we do see another mass swing to the top. Now, in an event in which we do see that swing back towards $41,000, obviously I think that'll be beneficial, because looking at this thing on the daily charts, it will also put us in the talks, at least, of seeing some type of inverse head and shoulders playing out. Now, of course, as we do go into downtrends, we will sometimes see that a rejective high will create something called an inverse head and shoulders. Now, what that looks like is us putting in a left shoulder right here, and we establish this as the rejective high. We come back up, and then we set in a lower low, but we work our way all the way back up to that rejective high. Now, this is going to be the head. So we have the head and we have the left shoulder here. Now, following that bounce off of the rejective high, one thing that we will see very commonly is that the price will then resort back down to a very similar level as that previous shoulder, this left shoulder, a previous level here, and put in this right shoulder. And then as we do come back and contain this level and we look to establish the support, the moment that we clear this original regional high, this rejective macro high here, that's considered an inverse head and shoulders with a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. And what our breakout target off of that inverse head and shoulders is going to be is the depth of your shoulder line or your neckline all the way down to the average low of your head, which would be somewhere around here, and you apply that distance to your neckline, which gives us a breakout target back towards $55,000, which of course does give us a more macro regional high. Now, of course, this is all a little bit more speculative, and I would say pattern technical analysis cannot be done alone. It has to be incorporated with many other indicators and technicals as well. But the fact that such a bullish pattern will start to form at that, establishment of support between $40,000 to $41,000, I think that would be absolutely huge, and I think that could be a big bullish catalyst in which we would be looking for some growth. So in the event in which we do look at a pullback as low as $40,000 to $41,000, I am going to be getting prepared to do a pretty large accumulation here at $44,000, that moment in which we do start to get those daily closes above this neckline at $44,400. So if you do start to see the price rolling here, bouncing and recapturing this $44,400 level, I am personally going to be doing some accumulating here with the stop loss set below wherever this shoulder is put in. Okay, so if it comes back down to 41 and bounces, I'm going to set my stop loss back probably towards 40,000 with a trade opening, and a long-term swing trade, in my opinion, opening back up to these levels. That would be a fantastic and a huge buying opportunity. And I think that if we see this clearing here, it would also be a good indicator and sign to get into some of your other top alts, maybe Ethereum, maybe Solana, or even ADA if you're a little bit more risky, of course, because I think that that will be a big tail sign that the rest of the market is established support. It has established support and it's ready for the continuation back to the top side. Now, in an event in which we do lose $41,200 or so, there are other levels towards the downside in which we can be on the lookout for. Obviously, we do have our 20-day simple moving average coming into effect. It does look like we will see some type of possible interaction with it around 40,000, so that would be optimal, but we could even go as low as seeing a push back down towards $35,000 and still be technically okay, right? We broke out from this trend line, and so even if we resorted all the way back to this trend line and stayed above 35,400, which is your swing low macro Fibonacci down here, we would still be okay for continuation back to the upside, but it would become much harder in order for us to see it. Now, I mean, even in this event in which we did come back and put in this low at this macro Fibonacci, and of course you can find that macro Fibonacci by drawing your Fibonacci from your swing low up to the high in which we put in. That's your 618 to 786 level. But even if we did do so, we could then be in talks to be seeing some type of, W bottom being put in here, or maybe some type of compound inverse head and shoulders, all of which would be extremely bullish the moment we do clear this rejective high. And so what I will go ahead and say is that no matter where this thing goes at this point, the point in which we set a higher low, which is extremely important, and then re-clear this 44,400 level on a daily close will be an absolutely massive massive sign that the rest of the market is ready to go and that we are probably going to be looking at some pretty intense growth, at least in the short term here, okay? Now, if for some reason the market does just shoot up today for some odd reason, what I would go ahead and say is I'd be looking at this thing on the 4-hour charts, and if it just blasts up through 44,400, still wait for that daily close back above 44,400, but probably I would wait to see a pullback and establishment of support on top of this level, as I think that there's only a limited amount of room to the upside from where we are now before these indicators will have to reset, okay? So optimally, best case scenario in my opinion, we just roll now, we go get it over with, we find some support, we clear this rejective high, and then we start looking for mass growth. Now, when this does happen, I decided that I will be doing this accumulation over on iTrust Capital. You guys know that they are a partner of the channel. I realize that I'm losing too much money to taxes whenever it comes to the gains that I'm making in crypto, and I'm completely over it, honestly. When I went through the math on all of my gains and how much I was going to pay on taxes, it was kind of heartbreaking in a way. And so what I decided is that I'm actually going to do my next mass accumulation over on iTrust Capital. It is a tax-free crypto trading retirement account in which whenever you do your trading there, as long as you meet the criteria, you will actually be able to go and trade it tax-free, and you will, whenever you're able to withdraw one day, you don't even have to worry about those taxes, which is phenomenal. Now, of course, there are other things that go into it. So all I do ask of you all is to go here and just press open account. It's totally free. It costs you absolutely nothing. Create this account. Go ahead, they're going to send you an email and you have to verify the email. Don't do anything before you verify the email so you can see everything that there is to offer. They will talk about how you can take advantage of them. It'll talk about why why it's a good option, right? You can either take the chance and go ahead, trade tax-free and try to meet the criteria over time, or use them. And if you for some reason need your funds, you need to withdraw it before the certain criteria is met, well, then you just pay taxes like normal. It's really a win-win in any situation in which you're in. And I think that this is probably one of the best options that people can use, especially as we could possibly be going in to see some absolutely ridiculous gains in the short term here, right? If we start to see 50, 60, 70% gains for Bitcoin, I don't want to lose up to 40% on those gains to taxes. That's ridiculous, and that's something I'm not interested in. And so that for that reason, I will be using iTrust Capital for this mass accumulation that I do plan on doing here. So with that being said, that is going to be about it for today's video. Of course, do pay very close attention to your support, but pay even more attention to when we clear that rejective high. That will be so important for the long and midterm future of Bitcoin. And so I will, of course, keep you guys as up to date as possible here and over on my Twitter, of course, at Tyler Hill YT. But with that being said, that is going to be about it for today's video. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. And if you did, you can always let me know simply by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.